All right. Hi everyone. Welcome to our Pixel Health and Implementation webinar. This is a follow-up to our September webinar, Drive People to Buy the X Ads Pixel. But specifically, this is for advertisers who we've identified might have a current Pixel setup issue with web performance campaigns on X. If you were not able to attend that September webinar, that is not a requirement for this session, and you can rewatch that on our business.x.com site. But we'll be recording this one as well, and we'll share it with you after. But this webinar aims to really dive into the weeds of Pixel implementation and healthy Pixel setup in order to set you up for success with your web performance campaigns on X. So to start things off, I'm Lindsay. I'm a revenue product specialist here at X, and I'll be starting off this session with an overview of the X Pixel, including what it is, why it's important, and its key components. And I'll then be passing it to Tino, who I will let introduce herself now.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Tino. Sorry if it's a little bit loud. There's some construction going on. But I'm Tino. I sit on the technical operations team here, and I specialize on our performance products, specifically the X Pixel, and how to implement and troubleshoot any issues that come up. You may have seen me before in some webinars that we've run before, like the X Ads Pixel overview and the DPA and Shopify presentation. But today I'm going to be going over a live demo of how to properly ensure a healthy Pixel setup and to determine if you have an unhealthy setup and ways that we can fix it. So I'll pass it back to Lindsay to just go over the high-level overview, and then I'll be back for the demos.
Thanks so much, Tino. So here's the agenda for today. As you can see, the majority of this session will be devoted to Tino's demos, as well as a Q&A at the end. But we really want this session to be as valuable as possible. So that means, showing you exactly how to navigate pixel creation in Ads Manager, implement your pixels properly, and QA that they're firing on your site. So to start, what is the X Pixel? So the X Pixel is a piece of code that you place on your website that enables you to track the site actions and conversions that occur on your site after someone views or engages with your ad on X. Pixel conversion tracking allows you to report on performance of your X ad campaigns, optimize your campaigns for specific actions on your site, and build retargeting audiences. So the Pixel is comprised of two key components. The first component I want to review is the base code. So this is embedded across your website to track site visits and lays the groundwork for event-based tracking, which I'll chat about next. So the base code should be placed across every page of your website. It is a standard requirement across advertising platforms and not just X. The second component is the event code. Event codes are specific triggers such as add to cart or buy now buttons that allow you to track individual actions on your website. You will place your event code on these key locations across your site. And to reiterate, since the base code, as I said, lays the groundwork for event-based tracking, you can't use event codes without implementing the base code. So in terms of setting up pixel tracking, there's really 4 key steps to follow. First, generating the pixel base code, then implementing the base code across your website, as we mentioned, then creating events to track, and then ensuring the event code is properly implemented on those key buttons and pages you would like to track on your site. So Tino's going to walk you through what this process looks like in depth as part of her demo next. And with that said, I will pass it to her now.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Lindsay, for providing the overview for the X Pixel and what it is and how it works. I want to dive into our tools, and I'm going to share my screen now, and we can go over just a couple things. So hopefully everybody can see my screen. Okay, so starting off with our tools and how they work. So This is Events Manager, and Events Manager is going to tell us a lot about what the pixel looks like. So, starting off with the healthy setup, this is what we want a healthy setup to look like with active tags. We have the base pixel created, we have the event codes created, and you can see that they're active and firing. I do want to call out here that this is a demo, so there's going to be some things that are slightly off, but this is just a general overview of what it should look like. So with these two auto-created events that are related to the X pixel, which you can see the X pixel here, which is a pixel ID, we do have this one landing page views that is inactive. And this inactive status will switch to active when there's a live campaign going on. So you can see that we have the site visits, which is active because we've created it, we've installed it, it's firing on the site. And this one, when there's a live campaign, then that will be active as well. And then I do have these two event pixels set up, a page view and a sign up. Like Lindsay mentioned, any event codes will track actions throughout the site for any actions that you want to track for a user. So this is the healthy setup. I also want to highlight here that there's the X pixel code. And this code, you can actually take it and hard code it into your website to also install the base pixel. But this is a little bit more technical in nature. You can use a tag manager and just take this pixel ID and install it. And I can show you guys a little bit of what that looks like in Google Tag Manager as an example. But you'll just take this pixel ID, install in the tag manager, set it to fire on throughout the user flow, and then you're good to go. So this is essentially what we want to see when we have a healthy setup. I also want to highlight another tool that we can use to QA, and that's the Xpixel helper. So here, when I refresh the page, you'll see this Chrome extension, which you can install the Xpixel helper very easily. You just search the Xpixel helper. It's a Chrome extension. You add install, and then you'll have this in order to QA your pixels. So here, when I click it, you can see that this QHOSS, which if I go back to Events Manager, you see it's that pixel ID. If we go back to the pixel helper, you can see that it's firing, that the pixel code is healthy, that we have a green check mark, that it's loaded properly. And this is what we want to see. So this is a healthy setup. We also can verify that it's set to set up on the same URL that we want our landing page as X Marketing Inc. for this example. When we're in the X Pixel helper, you can see that it's the same landing page. So everything is good to go here. So that's what we want to see for a healthy setup. So let me stop sharing and we'll go to demo number 2. So what happens if your pixels are inactive? What does that mean? I want to kind of like go over that second setup where we really like deep dive on what an inactive or what an unhealthy setup looks like. So let me share my screen again and we'll go over that example as well. So jumping into inactive status, I'm going to go over to this ads account. And typically what we see, like what happens where we see a common hiccup for a lot of advertisers is that they've come into Events Manager, they've set up their base pixel, they set up their tags, and they think they're good to go. But unfortunately, we see this inactive status that's happening, which means we've created the tags, which is step number 1, but we haven't actually implemented the tag anywhere. So we haven't actually placed the base pixel. You can see that we have inactive status for both the landing page views and both the site visit. And then for all of our events, you can see that they're inactive. So that's something that we don't want to see. That means that we need to actually take the events, we need to take the hard-coded script of the pixel and place it on our site so that it fires. I do want to also highlight another example of where it may not say inactive. There's actually another example where you may see, for example, this will say like no recent activity. So you can see that these ones are saying that they fired maybe years ago or like a couple of days ago. This pops up after a tag hasn't fired in 24 hours. So that what that indicates to us is that the tag needs to be either adjusted, it needs to be placed in a different location, or there's something going on with the campaign that it's not getting traffic to the specific pixel. So we need to make sure that we adjust the pixel, we adjust the ID, we adjust the setup, and we adjust the implementation in order to get this over to the active status. I did also want to highlight in Google Tag Manager, which I mentioned earlier, but this is the base pixel. And you can see here that that's that same QHOSS that is the pixel ID. And when I have the triggering, it's set to fire on all pages. So that's how we ensure that we've placed that tag ID on the tag manager. We've set it to fire on all pages. Then we're good to go. I also want to just quickly highlight the event pixel that I have for the sign up. This sign up is the QHOSS, and we also have the event pixel QP1V4, and it's set to only fire on this page view. So if I go back to our testing site, I can click the sign up page. And if I refresh the site here, you'll see that two fires. So we see that the base pixel fired and that the event code fired as well. So that was the healthy setup. We saw how we place it in the tag manager. We see it fire with the X pixel. So then we're good to go. So now you can kind of see the difference between the healthy active pixels that are set up correctly. And then you can see what happens when there's the inactive status. If I go over to this other testing site, you'll see that the X pixel says that there's no X tag request detected. And that even if I refresh the page, that nothing pops up again. So we want to make sure that we have an active status and events manager, and that in the X pixel helper, we're seeing the tags fire. So those are the main differences that you want to see with the active healthy pixels versus the inactive healthy pixels, and how we install them with the tag manager in order to get this up and running. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen one more time and then I'll reshare. But we want to also highlight one other example of an issue that we run into as well. And it's an important detail about our URLs. So this is not necessarily about the pixel setup, but it's about our ad setup that can also interfere with the X pixel. So I'm going to share my screen just one more time and we'll go over that third and last example. I'm going to share my screen here. And what I wanted to highlight here is that the URL on the ad needs to match the landing page. So if it doesn't match if the URL doesn't match, so like for example, we have this testing ad that's set up on the platform, and you can see here that the URL says xmarketinginc.com. And when I click this, when I get to this landing page, that the URL on the ad is the same as the landing page. So what typically can happen here is that advertisers like to use a bit.ly link, or they like to add Google click tags to their URLs in order to just enhance their tracking, or they like to use a shortened link to just to make it cleaner and to help with the aesthetics. But what happens here is if we do use a different URL that redirects us to the landing page, it actually hurts the pixel's ability to properly track, and it can cause the tracking to break. So we actually do have a solution in the case that you do want to add the Google click tags to your URL. You can actually add it at the ad group level, and we have some more information on that on our X business page for how to get that set up. But I did just want to kind of highlight that. I did also want to show in the campaign form, when you're setting up the ad and you have the URL like this is the clean setup. We want it to have the same URL that's showing our users to the correct landing page. So we're showing them to the right direction. So that's a little bit about URLs, how to set up, how to make sure that we've implemented our pixels correctly, how we are able to QA and make sure that we see them firing. And so yeah, that's a little bit of a great overview of inactive versus active, and versus making sure our URLs are set up. So I also want to highlight that we have a dedicated team of experts on standby to support you for anything that you may need. And I encourage you guys to reach out to them directly if you don't have a contact already. But I also want to open up this time for Q&A and ask us any questions that you may have, and we can provide some clarification. Okay, so let me answer this question. Once the base pixel is installed and page views is active, but other events are inactive, what are the best steps to take? I've had some trouble QAing with the dev team to get an add to cart and purchase event installed. We don't use Google Tag Manager, we use Telium. So that's great. Telium is another one of our partners. It's very similar to Google Tag Manager. By taking the tag IDs that I mentioned earlier, I can show my screen again just to kind of like show that example. So in the case that you have your base pixel set up and everything is active, but then these events, like let me show the inactive. So if these events are inactive, what you're going to do is take this tag ID and you want to take the ID of the event, place it in the tag manager, and make sure that it's turned on. Sometimes you'll place it in the tag manager, and it's a matter of making sure that the tag is actually published and it's actually set to go live. If this doesn't happen, you'll have that inactive status, which means that the tag hasn't been properly placed. So we want to make sure that once it goes over to the tag manager, for example, I know you use Telium, but for the Google Tag Manager example, here is an event code that has been installed. And once I've placed the tag, once I've placed the ID in the tag manager, I want to make sure that I say submit and push it live so that it goes to fire on the website. So hopefully that answers your question. Let's see if we have another one. Okay, so I want the event created campaign UTM Google Analytics to track each ad so I can see Google Analytics. I have a UTM set up in the campaign, but nothing works. So yeah, Google Analytics is a great way to actually get data from the pixels. Sometimes there can be some nuances in how to get that set up. I do know that like we are unable to kind of like troubleshoot and help with the Google side. So I also recommend reaching out to Google support so that they can talk to their platform. But if you have any issues on the X side, when you have metrics coming in on our side, we're happy and ready to support when it comes to tracking and metrics coming in on our side or any data discrepancies that go on that way. Okay, so I see that a campaign has been running for a few days. It has 24 clicks, but no data in Google Analytics. So yeah, that's the kind of like data discrepancy that I was mentioning earlier. We do see sometimes where we have reporting and we can see metrics coming in on our side, but on the Google Analytics side, if you're not seeing the data come through on their side, it's best to reach out to Google support and they can actually kind of like work with us in tandem together to make sure that we see that the metrics are coming in. But the best thing to do is also just to make sure that that tag you see it firing, that you see the active status on Events Manager. And if everything is good to go there, then there just may be like an issue on the back end. And it may just require like more like the dev team to go in deeper and take a look. So there's definitely a lot of different use cases there, but we're happy to help and get you guys up and running if anything like pops up in that sphere. Yeah, so we'll leave it open for another minute or two to see if we have any like last questions that come in, and then we may be good to close out. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions, so I think I'll pass it back to Lindsay to close it out.
Yep. So if you do have additional questions, feel free to connect with our team to address, anything else that comes up for you. We're happy to support. Thank you so much again for joining today and for taking the time. And, we really look forward to seeing your campaigns thrive on X. So thank you again and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, everyone.